Docs Sports presents Preseason Week 2 Football Release Party.
Hey everyone, welcome to Doc's Football Release Party. I mean, if that intro doesn't get you pumped up and ready for some football action, I don't know what is. I am your host, Robert Faringo. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join me and the team of handicappers that I brought in from Doc's Sports Services. For those of you that watched last week, welcome back. For the uninitiated or for those popping in for the first time, basically what we're doing here is it is 6:01 on the East Coast, Eastern Standard Time. The football picks for the weekend at Doc Sports have just gone live. They should be hitting your emails for clients here in just a few minutes, and we're ready to go. Our picks are out. The weekend betting action has started. So what we're going to do is every Thursday, we're going to bring in a bunch of Doc's handicappers, and we're just going to talk for an hour. We're going to go over, decision-making processes, statistics, big games that are going on, really dive into like the nitty-gritty of the upcoming football betting weekend. Hopefully it'll give you guys some good insights into what it is like as a professional sports handicapper, how we come about making our picks, as well as just arm you with some information that you can use to make your own decisions and your own bets on the weekend. So information is good, especially if you are a bettor. Again, thank you for taking your time. So my first reward to you is down in the description is a free 60 link. You can click on that and it will take you to Doc Sports where you can use this free $60 towards any handicapper, any sport, any package that you want. For instance, this week, the week 2 NFL preseason package is $45. Boom, you got it covered right there with that free 60. Also, in about 5 to 8 minutes, I'm going to give you guys another promo code that you can use that will give you 50% off this week's football package. So between that promo I'm going to give you and this free 60 link, you can end up getting like 2 or 3 handicappers weekend picks completely for free. So, all right, that's enough of me just breaking this in. Let's dive into it. Let's bring in the first guy. We got Nolan Patrick of Strike Point Sports joining us. Now, little known fact about Nolan. This guy has 8 straight winning preseasons. When I was doing some promo material about a week ago for the preseason for Docs, I'm like, that cannot be right. And then I went back and I looked it up, double-checked all the numbers. That's right, 17-5 after last week's win with Tampa Bay, which wasn't even close. 17-5, 77% in the NFL preseason. I mean, seriously, like I'm pretty good in the preseason, but like, what is your secret? Like what? Please walk us through your approach and how you have been so successful betting in the preseason.
I mean, like this, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's how we do it. How we do it.
No, I'm, yeah. Similar to the way I handle the regular season, I'm very selective. The preseason is tough because it's you're sweating, you're ready, you want to just attack, you want to bet football, but I don't like doing that. I find a couple of games and really many weeks, just one game a week. I try to attack those numbers. Like you said, 17-5 over 8 preseasons. So I'm super selective. I don't buy into a lot of the talk that you hear in the media. I look at trends, I look at depth charts, and I find 1 or 2 games each week, and I just attack those games. And, lo and behold, I've been pretty successful.
Now, you have been a football handicapper here for almost 20 years. This is Strike Point Sports' 20th football season. You weren't there at the beginning, but came along. You've been here a long time. So there was a time when you weren't handicapping and releasing plays in the preseason. And now, obviously, over the last 9 years, you have. Have you found that has helped you with your preparation when it comes to starting the NFL season? Or is this just kind of a one-off? Do you just kind of look at this like its own little self-contained betting unit here? Or have you found some carryover when the regular season starts?
No, I think that selectivity is a big thing, and that helps me as I transition into the regular season. Winning a couple games early, getting them under your belt, obviously gives you that momentum going into college football, and then pro football. But I really, like I said, I focus on trends. I focus on specific matchups, whether it's offensive depth, defensive depth, things along those lines, and that helps me prepare for the regular season. Obviously, regular season, you get starters versus starters, but even in the preseason, you just look at the trends and you look at mismatches along the way, which is what I like to do.
Is there a consistent trend, or do you have a favorite trend or a favorite angle, or just kind of like a go-to something that you look for in a preseason matchup that you like?
Yeah, I mean, there's, I like to look at what coaches do, so there's some places that I look at how coaches have done over the preseason. As you know, and as many people out there know, some coaches try to win in the preseason. Some coaches don't give two rats, in the preseason. Other things that I like to shy away from, and I know that there might be a lot of handicappers that differ. We talked about this a few days ago. When two teams practice together and they have those joint practice sessions, I shy away from those games. I don't like to bet on the game when the two teams have practiced together all week long. I want to use this term loosely. You were an athlete back in the day, and then when you're practicing with somebody and you're going head to head, there's going to be certain things that happen in those practices that we're not going to hear about that might carry over into the game. I don't want anything to do with those things. So I don't go there, and I look a lot on coaching records.
Sure. So like if they're practicing together, that maybe some of those mismatches or matchups that would have been exploited in just like a straight game or a straight preseason game, they exploited them during training, right? Yeah. So now like the teams are prepared. It almost gives the weaker team an advantage if they've practiced against the better team, like during the week when it comes to the game, right?
No doubt about it. I couldn't have said it any better myself. It really does. It gives, those underdogs that advantage that we might not have known about. So we see the matchup, we see a favorite that, is somewhat of a small favorite. You might hear rumblings out of camp that so-and-so did so much better. The defensive line of this team, was all over the offensive line of this team. Well, maybe that offensive line didn't really put in all of their schemes that they wanted to, because they didn't want to get destroyed in that preseason game. And then all of a sudden that advantage that we thought we had because we heard about it all week is no longer there. So I don't want anything to do with that.
All right. I mentioned at the beginning of this that I was going to give you guys a promo code to use for this week. That is FB Party 50. FB like football party, FB Party 50. That will give you 50% off of any week-long package this week for any handicapper that you want. So that's going to drop the price to just over $20. If you, like I mentioned, if you use that in conjunction with that free 60 that I gave you, you can almost get 3 handicappers picks for completely free this weekend. So, okay, Nolan, so you have one play going this weekend, right? You won your one play last week. You got one play going this week. Okay. There had to have been, was there one game that you were just like laser locked in, or were you debating between a few games throughout this week, and then you had like some piece of information or some gut instinct or something like pushed you over the edge on that? How did that process go?
Yes, I have the one. I really like the one. The line has moved a little bit, since I really started focusing on it, but that didn't sway me at all. I still have my one that's going to be a 2-unit play. That'll be one of my bigger plays, throughout the entire preseason. So I like that. I'm locked in there. There were a couple of games. One of the games that, that I wanted to focus on, but as I just talked about, I don't like taking teams that practice together, was the Giants. I'm a Giants fan, but this isn't a homer thing. I liked what I've heard out of the Giants. I think the Giants have, all right, take this with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. I think the Giants have one of the best preseason quarterback locker rooms, because they've got 3 guys that have had meaningful NFL snaps, and then they have a young rookie that's trying to make a name for himself. So I would lean the Giants there, but it stayed off my card because the Giants and the Jets practice together. Another game that I looked at was Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh. As you said, I took Tampa Bay in week 1. I love this Tampa Bay defensive depth. I also like their running back depth that they had. Sean Tucker had a great running game in that first game. Yes, Sean Tucker from Syracuse. Love it. Upgraded my season tickets this year. So I like the depth that Tampa Bay has, and something that people might not know, Mike Tomlin has an unbelievable preseason record. I believe he's 41-27 in his career in the preseason, but he is the streakiest preseason head coach I've ever seen. He started something like 19-6 in his first 25, and then went 3-12 in his next 15. And then he went on another 70% run. So I was looking to maybe fade Tomlin because I think he's at the end of that good run. But I ended up, that stayed off my card. So those were the two games that fell just short of my released card.
Yeah, those AFC North teams don't mess around when it comes to the preseason, right? Like,
No.
on their streak. But to your point, they win 24 straight. Then they don't cover for 7 straight. And then, of course, they covered last weekend and won as a weird home underdog against the Colts. Going back to that Giants game that you mentioned about, like, I agree with you. Like, handicapping quarterbacks in the preseason completely different than handicapping quarterbacks in the regular season. And in my experience, when it comes to handicapping the preseason, you got to look at a variety of factors, but you have to pick one that you're going to go harder with. And that, for me, that's either coach or quarterback depth. Like last week, I had a big play on the Bears, right? Because I liked their quarterback room. Okay. I didn't know Caleb Williams was going to start, but that didn't really matter to me. Like, I liked Tyson Bagent as a backup. And then I loved Case Keenum as a third stringer. Case Keenum is a guy with a lot of experience. He started a lot of games in the NFL. You take a guy like that and you throw him out there against a bunch of guys that are going to be bagging groceries in a month. Like, he's going to do some things. And he did. He looked pretty good. Unfortunately, they took the tie in that game, but what are you going to do? Are there any other storylines or are there any other interesting, like, side plots that you're interested in this week? Like, are there any games that you're going to be watching to see either how a coach performs, a player performs, a team performs, that you're going to use that information to move forward in how you're going to handicap those teams?
Again, Giants fan, I want to see what the Cowboys do. I kind of liked what Dallas had going into the season, bringing Dak Prescott back healthy, making some changes offensively, figuring that the offensive line might get a little bit better, figuring that the defense might improve a little bit. And I know it's the preseason, but they looked awful in their first preseason game against the Rams. And now there's drama coming out. Well, Jerry Jones always has drama, but it seems like there's even more drama coming out of the Cowboys camp. And if they come out and play poorly again this week in the preseason, and then you only have one final preseason game to right the so-called ship, they could start out pretty slow. And that's something I didn't think they would do. So I'm really interested to see how the Cowboys play this week. And playing the Ravens is not a recipe for success.
Never good for anybody in the preseason. Yeah, you and I did an NFC East preview video a few weeks ago, which you can find on the Doc Sports YouTube channel, which, if you're enjoying this video or just you're looking for daily free plays, daily analysis videos, like and subscribe the Doc Sports YouTube channels. You can set your alerts so you will be notified anytime there is a new video posted here. We have the best team of handicappers in the industry. So again, a lot of useful information that's coming out of this Doc's YouTube channel. But I agree with you. Like, we talked about how Dallas, how like everybody was walking sideways away from the Cowboys heading into this year. And you and I were like, ooh, maybe there's a little value here. Maybe they won't be a complete and total train wreck. But then everything that's been going on, I feel like outside of the field, like, it's just bad karma. It's just bad vibes. Like, I still think that there is talent on this team and that they could, looking at their schedule, that they could potentially be better than people think. But everything with Micah Parsons, Deron Bland, just some of the issues that are going on, just really bad karma that's going on with there. So, okay, I want to bring in our next guest to help us out here. We have Craig Trapp. Craig, hey, what's going on, man?
How we doing? New haircut. That means I'm going to win this weekend. New haircut.
Yeah, I mean, 1,000%. I'm digging it. So we were just talking about coaches and quarterbacks in NFL preseason handicapping. Obviously, they're both important, but do you have like one or the other that, all things being equal, you're going to go lean more on quarterback rotation or coaching, like pedigree in the preseason? Like, which one of those do you find most important?
Well, I actually think coaching is most important. And then the second thing most important is we saw with the Ravens last week, you have a good running game
Yeah.
and good offensive line depth, that really helps because at the end of these games, sometimes you're just trying to like not get anybody injured, but you still got to run plays and try to stay on the field. And all of a sudden you can march down the field and still score some late points. So I always think running back and offensive line are kind of the hidden gems, whereas the obvious is more like people just like they get obsessed with, oh, they have 4 good quarterbacks, and all of a sudden, 2 of those quarterbacks play 1 possession each, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, we only played the 3rd and 4th string. This really didn't. That handicapping kind of went out the window because you just really can't trust what you hear in the media. That's one of the things I think you need to learn very early when you're betting NFL preseason is you go test because, some coaches, they have one game plan, they throw it out there. So that's what gets reported into the, especially the local teams reporters. And then all of a sudden, one guy gets a little tweak and he gets nervous and he's like, all right, pull the starters. Pull the starters. We don't want to get anybody else hurt. So just be really careful. But I think coaches are the most important because as you see, the hardballs, let's just bet the hardballs every week.
Right.
Parlay hardballs.
And to your point, it's kind of like before the draft, they always say in the week leading up to the draft, don't believe anything that you read, see, or hear about the NFL because it's all lies. So, okay, one of the teams that ran the ball down their opponent's throat last week was the Ravens. Another one that ran the ball down someone's throat last week was the Jets. Nolan and I were just talking about that Jets-Giants matchup. The thing that jumped out at me last week was about both of those teams put up 400 yards of total offense. Now, we saw a lot of high-scoring games last week, but 400 total yards out of the Jets and the Giants. We got a total sitting at 39.5 in this game coming up this week. Do you think that those are some regression candidates there? Or do you think that, hey, maybe this is just going to be their preseason style where they're just putting up the points in the preseason that maybe they don't put up in the regular season?
I always say, whatever you see in the preseason, bet the opposite week 1 of the NFL. You probably don't, the year when Detroit went winless, yet we're undefeated in the preseason. It's like you can get really hyped up because, coaches win the preseason and then all of a sudden they can't do anything. So be careful what you see as far as translating that to the regular season, especially week 1. People get a little carried away. It's almost like when the guys make the rehab starts in baseball and then it's like, oh, he's playing great against AAA guys. And all of a sudden he comes up the league and he allows 3 home runs in 3 innings. You're like, okay, maybe he wasn't quite ready. So be a little careful with that. But I think this is the regression week. All those overs last week, this will be one of them I would play the under because I just don't – week 1, it's vanilla defenses. So the offenses should do well. They should be doing what they're doing. You're not blitzing a whole lot. You're playing, deep cover 2. So you can just pretty much pick up first downs, if you're accurate. So to me, I think this is one of the under games this week when the Giants and the Jets.
Okay, so did I. And I had that typed up. I had the under typed up on my card. It was going to be a 1-unit play. And then I did a little bit of digging. And Lenny, if you have that graphic, now would be a good time to put it up. I could not believe this. So last week, week 1, the teams went 13-2 against the total. The only total that didn't count was that Atlanta-Detroit game. So I look back over the last 5 years, and as you can see, in 2021, week 1, everything went under. 2-13 against the total. So you expect, hey, regression. Everything's going to go over the next week, right? Didn't happen. The only year that it kind of did that was 2022, but look at 2023. Week 1, everyone went 11-5 against the total, came back and went 10-6. Last year, which I had forgotten about this, but when I started researching it, remember last year, 4-12 against the total. Everybody went under in week 1. So you were thinking regression, scores of points. No, they were even worse in week 2. So that kind of spooked me. So now with looking back on the last 5 years, do you think that there's the potential that maybe this week will be a little high score?
Well, remember, public is over. So usually the public doesn't win 2 weeks in a row in interval. Preseason, definitely not in NFL regular season. And they were all the numbers I had, they were 2 or 3 points. The opening line was 2 or 3 points, and all of them that moved pretty much moved up.
Oh my God. Everybody who's betting an under this week, right?
Right. After that, nobody's betting under. So it's so I feel like you're getting 4.5, maybe average, maybe 5 in some games. So it's you don't even have to be right on what I consider the original number is where it should be. You don't even have to be right on that. You still get 4.5 points. So it's that's why I think if I was a betting man, if you just said, hey, I'm betting all the unders this week, or all the overs, which you only get one, I would take the unders for sure.
Right. I quite literally typed up 7 totals that I like that were all unders, had them ready, was going to post them in my package. I have 7 total picks this week. I was going to have like 11. I cut 4 of them when I saw this. I was just like, oh my God, like I'm expecting compression, but it doesn't happen with totals, right? Like, okay. So why do you think that is? Why do you think so many games went over last week? Do you think that it had something to do with last year there being so many unders, so maybe the books shorted the numbers a little bit? Do you think it has something to do with quarterback play, competitions, just something in the strategy of coaches heading into the season? Like why was that? What's your best guess?
Well, 2 things. One, I think the numbers were a little shaded down because the first 2 weeks last year were so low scoring. But I also think too that it's just there's better talent in the league now. And there's a lot of first-year coaches, first-year offensive coordinators that, frankly, it's not like they want to necessarily put up the points, but they got to practice. They're practicing how to get the plays in. They're doing all the stuff that they're going to have to do in less than a month now. And now with only 3 preseason games, it's not like the old days. Robert, we first started this week 1 of the preseason was like you couldn't bet it because no one played. Yeah, and week 4 no one played. It was just 2 and 3. Now guys kind of play 1 and 2, and then they kind of 3. It's iffy if they play. So I just think it's a combination of a bunch of things. But I do think when you have these new coaches and a lot of new defensive coaches out there, by the way, that are trying to figure things out and okay, I don't want to show guys what I'm going to do week 1 because hey, week 1 counts. That's how we win. That's how we get paid as coaches, and how we get to be the head coach is we perform in the regular season. So I think it was very vanilla first week. You'll see a little more this week, but I still think it'd be a little reserved. You hold back your best stuff for week 1 of the regular season, which we're 3 weeks away now? 3 weeks from Sunday?
NFL, yeah.
3 weeks from today, right?
3 weeks from today. 1 week from today, we get the good stuff. We get just a little nibble of real college football in week 0. So that's going to be a little bit.
What's that? Iowa State, Kansas State? Is that the first
Iowa
game?
State, Kansas State. Yeah, overseas.
In Dublin, right?
Ireland. Yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned that about the vanilla stuff. I don't care who they're playing, what the number is, or what's happening. Next year and the first week of the preseason, I'm betting the Bills over no matter who they play, okay? Because Sean McDermott, to your point, is a cover 2 guy. Cover 2 defense till he dies. And that first week, they basically were just standing there.
Yeah.
Okay, standing in their zone. Yeah, right.
It's like the second grader that's playing in the outfield. Don't let it go over your head.
Right. 100%. Everyone was talking about Jackson Dart and how good he looked. And sure, he definitely looked fine, but Buffalo was not doing anything defensively. So I'm definitely betting against them last year. Now, I like that you brought up used to be 4 games, now 3 games for the preseason. What adjustments have you had to make? Because I agree with you. It used to follow a pretty clear script, right? Week 1, you bet on those new coaches because they came out all piss and vinegar. They wanted to win that game. Week 2, you get the starters for a quarter, maybe a half. Week 3, the dress rehearsal. Week 4, I never bet $1 on a week 4 NFL preseason game in my life. Now that we only have 3 games, it's almost like the coaches across the league are still trying to figure out kind of what that consensus is in terms of how best to get their teams prepared. Your Bengals being a perfect example, right? We're not going to play anybody because we only have 3 preseason games. So now we're going to play everybody for the first half. So the coaches have had to adjust, players have had to adjust. How have you as a bettor and a handicapper had to adjust to the truncated preseason?
Well, you got to do a lot more research. I'll tell you that much because it's like the Bengals. You had to, everybody, the criticism for the slow starts. And I mean, he had to answer that a million times, not just Joe Burrow, everybody's answering it. And it was like, okay, we're going to play. We're going to be ready. And that means, hey, we're going to risk injuries. We understand that. We understand. And then there's other coaches that are like, hey, listen, we're getting them 1 series and they're out. We don't care, because they haven't had those slow starts. So you really have to put a lot more into it. Now, last week, I thought the Bengals would come out and win the first half. That was one of my plays last week. And yeah, guess what? It didn't happen. So that sometimes in theory it worked. The offense looked great, but then the defense was playing cover 2 the entire time. They didn't blitz 1 time. And it was me and you, Robert, could have committed. We would have been 75% passers in that game.
Yes. Stay there with me. Stay there with me, though. That is that indicative of how bad the Bengals are going to be defensively? Is that a function of, hey, we got a new new coordinator that we're breaking in? Like, is there just not talent there? Do they miss, does this mean they're going to sign Trey Hendrickson? Maybe the defense was doing it for Trey Hendrickson's benefit to try and get him paid. Like, what was your takeaway from that? Because
they're not going to be good. They're not good.
Yeah, they're bad, right?
They're not bad. Now, we might have the best offense. So maybe it's like, you can just outscore people. That did not work last year. I mean, they had basically the last half of the season, they had the top offense. And yeah, they won a bunch of games, but they were so far down from the early season where the struggles couldn't catch up. So, and in a very, very tough division, I think the Bengals have a very uphill battle. I do think they'll sneak into the playoffs, but I think it's going to be like a 9-win and that they're going to be like sweating it out like they did last year, the last regular season, hoping they get the tiebreakers this year. And Trey Hendrickson, this definitely helps him. He's got to be like, dude, I was if not the best player on top 5 defensive player last year in the league. I mean, number 1 sack guy. And it's like, dude, you were bad last year with me. Well, imagine if you don't have me. So I not like they added any big free agents. And Al Golden, obviously he was the defensive coach of the year in college football last year. Great. Pat him on the back. Dude, if you don't have Jimmys and Joes in the league, I don't care who you are.
Sure.
You ain't winning. And he'd have to do some magic, I think, for that defense to be good. I'm guessing if you like the Bengals games this year, play overs. That's where I'm like, I got to think these overs are going to be in the mid-50s, I bet. Like 53.5 a lot. Like, I just think it's going to be high because the Bengals will have to outscore people.
It's going to be like those old Carson Palmer teams, right? When they had Houshmandzadeh, Chad Johnson, Chris Henry, like that team couldn't be stopped, and they also couldn't stop anybody.
Yeah.
I do want to mention again, the promo that we are using this week is FB Party 50. That will get you 50% off any 1-week football package this week. I also want to mention that right now we still have our early bird specials. Okay, that's $7.49 for a full season package for any handicapper on the site. That takes you from now, August 14th, through the Super Bowl in February. It's like 26, 27 weeks worth of football. We're talking like 25, but somewhere between $25 and $30 a week, utilizing that early bird special. Not only that, not only can you get a full season package for the early bird special price from now for about 3 more weeks, but you can use that in conjunction with our 3-for-1 special. What that is you sign up for, let's say, Craig Trapp's full season football package. We will let you pick any other 2 handicappers to kind of test drive for 2 weeks so you can compare their results, compare their styles. Somebody like Craig is probably a little bit more selective than me.
Yep.
Maybe has between, 4 and 8 football plays a weekend. Somebody like me, a lot more aggressive. I'll throw 25 plays out there in a college and NFL combined weekend. Maybe you like his way. Maybe you like my way. This 3-for-1 special allows you to kind of test this out and see who you want to roll with for the rest of the year. So, okay.
But a note there, you can't use that 50% off code, right?
The 50% off code will not work on the early bird special. That's only for a 1-week for a 1-week package. But the $60 free down in the description, that can be used for anything. That's the golden ticket right there.
So then it's $689 if you're new.
Before I let you go, give me a game. Give me that last game on your card that like you just cut off because you wanted to keep it tight.
Yeah, I gotta think it's the Broncos this week. I was this close to playing the Broncos. I really like what they looked like last week. It's one of those young teams that it's like, and Sean Payton he's just a good coach. Like, you win with Bo Nix as a rookie. That tells you, first of all, he's a kind of a quarterback whisperer. I mean, you could definitely say that. And I just think this team has a ton of talent, depth, young guys that are hungry, that are fighting for positions. I like those kinds of teams. It was the third play I liked, and I was just like, you know what? I'll just leave it all. Yeah. So that's what I have. That would be my 1 Denver minus. I think it's 3.5 now. I like this.
Is it down that low? I actually thought it was 3.5. I actually thought it was I was expecting it to be a little bit bigger. A lot of excitement around that team. So they're gonna have a good home crowd. People want to like poo-poo home field advantage in the preseason. There are times I almost feel like it matters more in August than it does in December sometimes.
Hey, mile high air in August, that has to be miserable.
Exactly. Early season at altitude, you get that little bit of crowd that's like pumping up those fourth stringers late in the game. That's the type of thing that could definitely
remember, they can only go, 2 practices in a row. This is crazy. I didn't know this till this week. 2 practices in a row with pads now. That's the new collective of bargaining. Used to be able to, they would do that 14 days in a row, 4-hour practices. So it is so vanilla now. These guys have to come in better shape, by the way, because if you don't, they don't run you into shape like they used to. That's just not the way it works. And now guys do stay in, I think, better shape than they used to, like the personal trainers and everything. But still, you go mile high air and you haven't been hitting it hard, like in practice.
Hold on. We got a handicapper here at Docs that we're going to bring in right now that I know is in shape and I know can handle that.
Now it's a party.
He can handle that mile high air right now. Before we let you go, Craig and I were just talking about Arizona, Denver competing at altitude. It's got to be a huge advantage for the Broncos, right? I know you didn't release any plays this weekend, but did you look at that game? Did you have any thoughts on the Cardinals-Broncos this week?
I didn't have any crazy thoughts on this one. I mean, overall for the Arizona Cardinals, I can't say the whole season is kind of riding on Kyler Murray. I don't want to get too deep on that. I didn't go deep with that. I do want to talk about the Browns-Eagles, though. That is definitely something that I find. Shedeur Sanders, obviously, he just came out, torched this defense apart in their most recent matchup against Carolina. Well, now he's hurt. So you got Gabriel Pickett hurt as well. So
who's going to go there? Like, has we heard? Like,
what's that?
I mean, there's 3 guys that are hurt.
Yeah, they got Tyler Huntley. Huntley's going to be leading the charge.
Flacco, though? Like, I know they didn't want to start Flacco
right,
because he's old and decrepit and they don't want to risk him last week. But they have to at least give this guy a few series before it becomes a Tyler Huntley show, right?
Absolutely. I would say so in my eyes. Give Flacco a couple reps. I mean, the guy's been doing this for how many years as it is, but you still got to warm him up getting ready for the season. This is going to be their go-to guy. He's got a lot of guys behind him. He's got a lot of leadership roles to fulfill, and I believe he's a great guy for the spot. But Tyler Huntley, let's not back down from Tyler Huntley. This guy's been all over the map. He's played with a ton of teams, and he's good. He's a pesky quarterback. He's got speed. He can find a way to win. He's been with the Ravens. I love this guy, for instance, because of Miami. Last year when Tua went down, I had an 8-unit game of the year on Miami against the Patriots. Tyler Huntley comes in absolutely gunslinging in this game, running around like he was the fastest guy in the field. Everything couldn't be stopped, reading defenses, watching the interior, did everything right as a quarterback. I love Tyler Huntley. So I think in going into this week, Tyler Huntley gets the start. They're getting 4.5 points. Talking about underdogs here, I like the Browns here coming into this game. The Eagles on the other flip of the coin, Tanner McKee, he was a very good shine in the most recent matchup. He played very good. I think we're going to see more reps out of Kyle McCord in this matchup. But the biggest thing that I'm taking out of this game or this sequence is the secondary. You cannot get beat up the way that this team did, and they just ripped apart Andy Dalton. I can't go. I'm going frozen right now.
Bryce Young,
and Plummer and Jack Plummer. So they have to be way more solidified coming into this game. I think the Eagles lay down in this matchup. Sirianni, he's 2-5-1 against the spread as head coach. So looking at a game like this, I think Kyle McCord's going to see more reps. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he should be a key factor as well. But this can go anywhere in this one. But I really like the Browns, and I think people are going to start squaring away from them due to the fact of all their injuries, sleeping on the fact that Tyler Huntley's a guy that could actually lead you and win ball games. And
okay, the 8 unit.
8 unit, baby. Bring it back.
Right. Craig, thank you for taking the time to join us. We're going to let the Cincinnati Bengals fan go so we can deep dive into that a little bit more. But good luck this weekend.
All right, Bears guys, out.
Yeah, right.
Craig.
So Griffin, even though Shedeur not playing, still kind of like the underdog value. Now let me ask you. Last week the underdogs crushed it across
9 winners.
I think I had the
9
numbers.
outright winners.
Yeah, 9 outright winners. They went 12-3 against the spread. The reason that there weren't 16 games is because that Atlanta-Detroit game didn't finish. Like, what do you attribute that to? Do you think it was something where the odds makers were just really that far off? Do you think that the market kind of steered the numbers that way and the public just got buried? Do you think that there was some hidden motivation? Do you think that people are just bad at betting the preseason? Like, what do you attribute that to?
I think it's a confluence of a lot of things, Robert, but the biggest thing definitely was line movement and a lot of hype. Obviously, with Cam Ward being a huge name, a lot of these big draft picks, a lot of these guys that were supposed to fulfill huge roles actually didn't pan out playing that well. There was a lot of misconstruction, a lot of defensive efficiencies. That was the biggest thing I would say. And a lot of these guys that have just never been here before really didn't come to fruition and grounds up. Biggest mistakes that I saw across all cylinders on the football field throughout the entire week was defensive secondaries. There were way more points that were scored than I expected to be scored, and there were slip-ups. People were not managing assignments. Secondaries were not playing very strong. Too many points were scored, and that typically comes for an outright winner from an underdog, and that's kind of what we saw rolling into this week, Robert.
So last week, one of the things was, these big road favorites. And for me, it's still weird. Like, I don't think any team should be favored by a touchdown or 6 or 6.5 points in a preseason game. Like, that just seemed nuts to me. But, Cincinnati was -6.5. They lost outright. Indianapolis -6.5. They lost outright. We still have 2 teams this week. We have Tennessee and Atlanta. And now we have the Chargers at the Rams this week. Like, Should we just blindly be betting these home underdogs here? Or do you think that there's a reason that these teams are favored again on the road? Like, walk me through why there's these massive road favorites in the preseason.
Well, the one that I would really like to go to in this one is the Ravens. They upset the Colts, and that was a huge shocker for me because Ravens, obviously, we know about Harbaugh. We know about how dominant this guy is during preseason play. 41-21 against the spread all time. This guy's absolutely dominant. But at the same time, I didn't think that Harbaugh was going to come out and put anything out on the table. And that came all about to a new offensive coordinator. But with that being said, the Colts, on the other hand, they are the situation for me. Quarterback spot. This is my favorite scenario when I want to bet on a preseason game. Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, and Riley Leonard. Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson definitely fighting for that quarterback spot. So they have momentum coming into this game. The Ravens laying 2.5 points here against the Cowboys now with Joe Milton. Joe Milton, I believe, is going to see a considerable size of snaps in this game. He got picked up by the Patriots. Milton had like 1 or 2 games last year, and I know that scared the hell out of Drake May because this guy looked legit. He came out of Tennessee, phenomenal quarterback. He's a big boy, 6'5", 250-pound beast. I love the tools that this kid brings to the table. Now for the Cowboys, I'm going to talk about them really quickly. They bring back Dak. They've got CeeDee Lamb. All their core players are there with an addition of George Pickens. So in that sequence, the only thing that this team needs to do is stay healthy. They didn't stay healthy last year, and that's why they were a big as debacle as they ended the season. Because finally, when they got healthy, Dak went down. So going into this situation right now, this team, they need to only focus on health going into this matchup. And the biggest thing that they have to do is worry about their secondary. Stetson Bennett just completely torched that secondary apart. So going into this game, Cowboys in this matchup, I think they have one massive issue or one massive statement to make, and that is defending the pass game and being interiorly strong on the rush. That will be the prime focus in this game. So I really like the Cowboys here in this spot as another dog to win this game outright. That's going to be my play as far as if I'm going to give a free selection out on this show, that is my play of the week. I'm on the Cowboys in this one, Robert.
So going against the Ravens, I just want to make sure I understand this.
Yes,
the best team in the preseason over the last decade. And you want to bet the Cowboys?
Yes, I do. And the reason being, so if you go down Jim Harbaugh's stats, actually, week 2 is by far his weakest ATS trend across all cylinders. Week 2, 8-7 against the trend. Across everything else, 9-5 in week 3. Week 1 is something like ridiculous, but he's almost 500 in week 2 of preseason. So that's something to definitely keep your mind on. And at the same time, it's understandable. You want to play game 1, winning mentality. We want to come in and win ball games. Jim Harbaugh. That's what he does. Week 2, let's take a step back now. We kind of already got our win. Let's put our backup, our really guys who are really fighting for a spot, see who's really going to come out and put it all on the table. And that's kind of where you can go about with that. So I think they're going to lay off a little bit, the Baltimore Ravens. And I think the Cowboys have way more to play for when it comes to their backup roles because they've already got their star players. Now they need to figure out how they're going to solidify this entire team. Biggest issue, their secondary. That is going to be the point that I am going to be scouting this entire matchup, Robert.
Okay, in general, that is a good theory. Bet on the bounce back team in the preseason, right? Team gets embarrassed. offense looks sloppy, something bad happens in game one. I forget what the number is, but underdogs that lose their first preseason game by double digits at like a 60% rate in the next game. So like, I understand the theory of going with the bounce back team, but for me personally, there is a 0.00% chance that I am betting $1 against the Ravens in the preseason. Like, maybe I like that. Right. No, hey, you do your thing. I'm just saying, for me, that game is either Ravens or no play. Now, we mentioned Indianapolis. Okay. Sure. So they throw up on themselves as this big 6.5-point road favorite. They get run over by the Ravens. They come home this week. Quarterback battle isn't a quarterback battle anymore because Anthony Richardson got a boo-boo. Yeah. Okay. They are 6-point favorites again this week at home against Green Bay. Do you think that is warranted? I understand Jordan Love's not going to play. He just had surgery. Green Bay is not a team that really takes the preseason very seriously. Right. But they just got bombed last week by the Jets, 30-10 at home. Going on the road, catching points, maybe make some adjustments. Like, should we be on this underdog here in a bounce back situation, following the underdog trend from last week and betting against the Colts? Or is this number maybe telling us something that we should listen to?
No, yeah, Robert. No, absolutely. I'm backing the Colts in this one. A lot of people don't take home field advantage as well very seriously in preseason, and to me, home field advantage is critical in these situations, especially after that situation. Everybody was so high and mighty on the Colts in week one. They got absolutely embarrassed. No, we won't see a lot of Daniel Jones in this game. Anthony Richardson in this game. But at the same time, they still have Riley Leonard. He's still a very good quarterback as well. And on top of that, the Colts, they're playing for a lot this season. They have statements to make. They have key roles to fill in. For the Green Bay Packers, on the other flip of the coin, they know who their key guys are going to be rolling into the season, obviously with Love, obviously with Josh Jacobs. Obviously, they already know they have a very, very strong offensive line. They know their key components, and they are not all about winning preseason. They don't have a history for winning a lot of preseason games. They don't care. So in this situation, Indianapolis has more to prove. They're at home in this game. They have more key guys fighting for key roles in the situation. I'd lay the 6 points in this matchup. Week 2 is going to be a completely different flop from week 1. I'm not going to guarantee anything on this show, but just by the way that this system, historical data, how all of this stuff retraces, it's just a repetitive system. Teams that typically get blown out in week 1 come back in week 2. Obviously, we know we can expect a lot of Daniel Jones in this game, and Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard's a star player, so look for him to really have a breakout game in this matchup. That's where I'm at with this one, Robert. I like the home field advantage. I like the Colts, and I don't mind laying the 6 points. That's why I'm not on preseason right now, dude.
That's funny. That's exactly where I was going to go with my next question. Is that, last week we talked about the value in betting the preseason. Okay, it's something that I not only make money in, but I find it helpful and useful to prepare me for the regular season, right?
Yeah.
You are one of, I think, 3 guys that aren't releasing any picks in the preseason on our site. And again, I want to go back to it. That's what's great about Doc Sports. We have this full roster, this all-star team of handicappers, and everyone has their own style. Everyone has their own approach, right? Your approach is to not release plays in the preseason. So walk me through why you feel like that is more beneficial to helping you prepare, because you're obviously following it, right? Like, you're obviously paying attention to all of it. You're doing your research and stuff like that. But just walk me through your thought process of like why you don't release plays and why that's beneficial to you in your preparation for the season.
So over the past years, I actually, Robert, have a really good historical track record when it comes to my preseason selections. I will say that. I want to say I'm like 9-4 since I've joined with Docs across my preseason. But at the same time, we're really looking at this stuff in the way that I'm looking at it up. And I'm aging as a handicapper. I'm getting older. I'm getting more veteran with my style of handicapping. And it's decision-making. It's where is the actual value at? And when I'm betting on preseason games, you've got this guy fighting for a spot here. You've got this guy fighting for a spot here. This guy just got brought up from the practice squad. This guy just got picked up from the trade waivers, whatever the hell it may be. There are so many cases of liability. And you could hear me on Docs Daily anytime I'm ever on a show. My biggest instance, pitchers in baseball. He's a liability. He's only got 7 innings of work on the season. He's only got 12 innings of work on the season. He's going up against a guy who's got 90 innings of work with a 3.00 ERA. It's the same exact thing. Where is the the value. There's not a tremendous amount of value in preseason games. That's for me. Hey, there's a bunch of other handicappers on our firm, and they find value in these preseason games. For me, I would rather know exactly what I'm up against. If I'm getting ready to fight somebody, I want to know what they got. I want to know how they throw their right, how they throw their left. Do they have a good jab? Do they have a good cross? I want to know all of those things before I get into that fight so I can be protected for that. In a situation like this, you don't know what the hell's going to come. Did you think Shedeur Sanders was going to come out and throw for touchdown over?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
and I talked about
well,
it.
You're different. You're sharp.
I did. I talked about it last week exactly on here. I had the over in that game as one of my top plays. Like, definitely. Like, okay, I want to bring in our last handicapper, Nick Mencken, and you hang out for a minute.
Yeah,
because
3 minutes. A party.
He's
Bear
on
down.
Yeah, bear down, baby. And you and I are going to talk a little Bears here in a minute. But so Griffin talking about, and I know you were another handicapper, don't release plays in the preseason. So I'm guessing that you agree with him that too many variables, too much uncertainty in the marketplace. Don't like it. Let's wait. Okay. I'm going to make the counter argument here. Okay. We look at last week how underdogs went, 12-3 against the spread. We look at the totals market where the over went 13-2. And for me, that's what that volatility yields. We may not know what's going on with who's going to play and how much, but you know who else does it? The books. They don't know either. They can't put out those sharp numbers. They can't be as on top of it. Like for me, I love the crazy. Give me all the craziness and all the uncertainty when it comes to this betting, because I feel like that's where we as professionals can dive in there and snipe that 1 or 2 or 3 shots. Does it make sense? Do you buy that?
Robert, yes, absolutely. And I love what you said this. And I even recommended really quick on Docs Daily on Saturday, I recommended for anybody who is looking for selections to grab yours in particular. The reason being is because of volume. Robert, you're playing with the numbers. You're playing with the analytics, the statistics plus the value. For me, I'm a cherry picker type of football guy. I like to pick 2 to 3 picks per week and find those sharp selections that I'm cherry picking, while I know you like to load up on volume. So if you guys are looking for action, Robert's going to probably have 7-8 preseason games. And when it comes down to the funnel, he's probably going to go 6-2. 5-3, come out profitable. Lines are there, plus value plays. So there's a lot different ways to look at it. But the main key component was you put out a lot of stuff. So basically what you're doing is jagging each number, which I love that, because at the end of the day, it's a mathematical edge to come out and profit. For me, I like to stay smaller and cherry pick and feel a lot more confident about my wins. But I'm speaking for myself, Robert.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Like I lost in the preseason Hall of Fame game because that was the only game, and I missed it. Went 6-2 last week because I had all these.
Oh, okay, you did.
Okay.
Nice.
Thank you very much for joining us, Griffin Murphy. He will be back on Doc's football release party next week. I appreciate your time, and good luck as we get ready for the season.
Thanks for having me, Robert. I'll talk to you guys.
All right.
And just like Griff said, though, why I don't bet on preseason. I'm more conservative, obviously, but then you got all the starters now starting to get back into the game here. We'll start to see those first reps, and that's what I want to see from week 0 to week 2. I'm looking more so at the coaching staff here, how they're calling their plays, 3rd and long distance, 3rd and short distance, their offensive schemes, especially the moves like Mike Vrabel with the New England Patriots here, and then Ben Johnson with the Bears. New coaches here in different schemes. Now they're trying to put it together to get these starters back on the field, and we'll see some of that today, or this week, I should say. And that's when I start diving into the film, when they do have those starters and they're competing with their ones out there, Robert.
So last week, again, like it's usually an angle that I look for is I like to bet those new coaches in their first preseason game. Back when there were 4 preseason games, this was like a number 1 angle to go for, right? Because these guys, they want to show the fan base, the front office, the players. They want to show everybody I'm the guy. I was the right hire. I'm the man for the jobs. They want to go out and get that first win under their belt. Unfortunately, last week we had 7 new coaches. They went 2-5 against the spread. So that angle wasn't good. However, was there anything that you saw from the 7 new coaches? Schottenheimer in Dallas, Glenn at the Jets, Johnson with the Bears, Kellen Moore with the Saints, Pete Carroll in Vegas, Vrabel with the Patriots, Liam Cohen with the Jaguars. Was there anything that you saw from any of those coaches that you either really, really liked and thought like, okay, I see what we're doing here, Or was there anything that you really, really didn't like where you're like, maybe this guy's not ready yet?
We got to go to New England. I mean, with Mike Vrabel, this guy played 7 years here for the Patriots. Let's not forget that. And he's been a part of that dynasty, that 2000 run. I believe he was there from 01 to 08, I believe. He knows the Patriots way. He knows Robert Kraft and what this organization expects. And let's not forget that Mike Vrabel, he was the coach of the year in 2021 there for the Tennessee Titans. This guy has been a winner his whole career when he was playing and now when he's coaching here. In his 6 years with the Tennessee Titans, he went to the playoffs 4 years out of those 6 years. So it's instant credibility here for Mike Vrabel. I think he brings that passion and he has his players. And you saw last week what the New England Patriots did against the Commanders, 48 to, I believe it was 10 in that one. Yeah. That defense looks sharp, but what they need to work on is that offensive line protection. And we'll get more into that as I do have a play for you all in the New England and Vikings game here, Robert.
Ooh, nice little tease right there. Yeah. So like last week, it's like the Sex Panther line, like 60% of the time, it works every time. The two teams that covered last week with their first year coach, Aaron Glenn with the Jets and Vrabel with the Patriots, those were no doubters. Those were exactly what that angle used to yield. Like those guys came in and they kicked their opponent's teeth in because it was obvious that it just meant more to them than it did to the other team. Now, I was hoping that that angle was going to help out with Chicago with Ben Johnson, okay? They decided that they weren't going to have Caleb Williams play in that game, drop the line a couple points. They ended up tying 24-24. Walk me through the good and the bad, both what you saw from Johnson, the Bears, the offense. Just what was your takeaway from him specifically as a first-year coach?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Bears are our team. So Ben Johnson, I love him. I'm high on him. Obviously came from Detroit. He had for 3 seasons the highest offense in NFL here. Now he gets Caleb Williams. It's not like he's copying and pasting the Detroit playbook here and he's bringing it to Chicago. He's going to build around Caleb Williams here. And I saw it a little bit in his play calling in that first preseason game. But what they need to do better is obviously the penalties on the offensive side up front. They got too many false starts there. But what I liked out of Ben Johnson was late in that game when the Bears turned over the ball, or the Bears got the ball on 4th down, they sacked the quarterback there in field goal position. What I saw was Ben Johnson calling up some plays to get him in field goal position, but the wide receiver didn't do his job to catch that ball. Now we're out of field goal position, and then the offensive line jumped on, and now we're out of field goal position. So cleaning up those little mistakes here, and obviously seeing the starters and how Ben Johnson is molding this offense around Caleb Williams, and I think we'll see that against the Bills this weekend. I'm excited for it, and I know you are, Robert.
Very subtle thing in that game, okay, was the end of the first half. The way he used his timeouts and the way he manipulated the clock and the way he was able to call that smart play to Luther Burden on that cross. He got out of bounds with 1 second left to put them in field goal range to kind of steal 3 points. After watching Matt Eberflus, one of the all-time just losers, one of the all-time worst in-game coaches ever, it was so refreshing to see a guy like Ben Johnson do that. Like manipulate the clock, know how and when to use his timeouts, and steal points. It's situational football. That's what we see these great teams do. The Bears are not a great team, but it was nice to see that finally they had a head coach who looked good in those situations.
And that right there, Robert, that is exactly what I'm looking at in the first couple weeks of these preseason, the time management and how they control the clock, not necessarily from the players that are probably the backups here, but the coaches, the offensive coach, and how he is getting into that 2-minute drill before the half to get those points. That's the stuff I'm looking at here. And now with the starters obviously ramping up, there'll be a lot more film and a lot more diving into.
You know, another first-time coach or new coach who is absolutely not a new coach, he's been around forever, Pete Carroll, right? He was a very popular bet last week with him going back to Seattle as a road favorite, thinking he's going to want revenge, thinking he's going to want to, stamp his mark and get that first win. And they did. They ended up tying with Seattle. I thought the Seahawks looked a little frisky in that game. What do you attribute that to? Do you think that, Seattle played a little bit better than you thought? Looking at the Raiders again at this week as another big favorite, do you think that maybe people are overvaluing or overrating the Pete Carroll effect with the Raiders, or is it too early to tell? Like, talk to me a little bit about Carroll and the Raiders.
I would just say it's a little too early to tell, but what I love out of Pete Carroll is he brought his boy with him from the Seahawks there in Geno. I think Geno's going to fit perfectly in this offense with Pete Carroll. They've been with each other for a little bit of time with the Seattle Seahawks there, but I like Pete Carroll. I'm high on him, but I'm not so sure how well that this Raiders team is going to do this year. Just on that defensive side, I think they're going to give up way too many points, as we just saw in that first week there. So I'm not so high on Pete Carroll, but I think he will have great success with Geno as his quarterback here and moving forward.
Okay, so it is obvious that the public is latched on to our first-year head coaches, rookie head coaches, new head coaches. That's why that only went 2-5 against the spread last week. However, I may have a replacement angle that we can see about how it does this week and maybe utilize next year. And that is hot seat coaches. Okay. Brian Dable, Kevin Stefanski, Steichen, Gannon, Mike McDaniel down in Miami. Okay. Probably the 5 most likely coaches to get fired if they do not make the playoffs or have good seasons. Like probably the 5 biggest hot seat coaches, right? Their teams went 4-1 against the spread last week. So these are guys that I feel the pressure. They're reading about it. They're hearing about it. They kind of know their jobs are on the line. So maybe they're giving that little extra effort in the preseason. Do you think that there's something to that?
Yeah, definitely. And you look at Miami with McDaniels there, you got to start winning these ball games and making an impact. Obviously, this season with Tua, he's going to be the talk of the town. Can he last 17 games? I don't know. I don't know if he could do it, but he needs to start winning down there in South Beach. And I think he's on the hot seat here. If he doesn't win or doesn't make that wild card, I think he's going to be gone after this year. Yeah,
that's going to be my angle next year. I'm betting the Bills over and all the hot seat coaches. I'm going to bet on them. Mark it down now. So, okay, before I let you go, you mentioned that you had a free play. So I was going to ask you, what was the game that stood out? I know you didn't release any plays, but if you had, was there one game that you were like, ooh, this is kind of juicy? What for us?
If I was going to release a play, it's going to go back to the New England Patriots and the Minnesota Vikings here. The Vikings are underdogs here, +2 at home. Obviously, the Patriots just butt whooped the Commanders. They're 48-18 in their first game. The Vikings also won their first game too, 20-10 against the Houston Texans there. But the one thing, like I mentioned, that I saw from this Patriots that could be a weakness here is that offensive line. Now you're going to have Drake May. I understand that they have Stephon Diggs, but if he doesn't have any pressure, it's not going to be good whatsoever. And then on the Minnesota side of things here, Minnesota short on that wide receiver position, especially with that suspension on Addison there, and guys are injured. So these wide receivers are playing 4 spots here for the Minnesota Vikings. I'm expecting the Vikings to air it out. J.J. McCarthy should be in here this week and will play. Go ahead, Robert. Is he not?
He will not. They just announced it about an hour and 20 minutes ago. He will not play.
Okay, so they're still going to air it out because these guys' livelihoods and their jobs here are on the line. So you're giving me Minnesota at home against the New England Patriots team with that offensive line. Take the Minnesota Vikings here, +2 to be safe. And if you want to sprinkle some on the money line, I think they get the job done there at home against the New England Patriots. I can't trust that offensive line right now. Robert.
Now, to your point when we started about how you don't like betting the preseason because of the uncertainty, right? Like line movements in the preseason, completely antithetical to how lines move during the regular season. This is a perfect example. They announced that J.J. McCarthy is not playing in this game. The line actually dropped. New England is only 1.5 point favorite now. Like that's the exact opposite movement that you would expect. On the other side, we have the Chargers Rams. They announced that Justin Herbert is going to play in this game. The line shot up 2.5 points. Okay. Just because Justin Herbert's going to play, how long do you think this guy's going to play? He's going to play like 2 or 3 series, hand it off a couple times, maybe throw a couple passes, and then GTFO. But that just goes to show you that like understanding line movements, tracking line movements, predicting and reacting to line movements, and preseason betting action, completely different than the regular season. So that might be more ammo for you to not do it. Was there last thing before we let everybody get out? Again, like and subscribe to the Doc Sports YouTube channel. Nick Mencken in particular releases a lot of daily free plays. He's on Docs Daily a lot of good stuff there. Don't forget about YouTube Premium. We have a premium service, which you can read about right there down in the description. Free 60, FB Party 50. We got all kinds of good stuff coming at you guys. And I'm really testing my producer right now, making him throw this stuff out there. Any other games, any other things that you are, maybe not even the numbers, the angle from a betting perspective, just is there anything that you're going to be watching this weekend to kind of build up that information bank because you think it will help you when the regular season comes around? Any teams, any players, any coaches, anything in particular?
Of course, Robert, it's our Bears. I want to see that first possession. I want the Bears to get the ball right away, and I want to see what Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams in the first string can do against the Buffalo Bills. And I think Josh Allen will be going here as well in that first quarter. So we'll see. I'm excited about the Bears. I got a lot of optimists, so we'll see how they do.
All right, that is Nick Mencken. Thank you very much for joining us, Nick. Good luck as you get ready for the season. College football right around the corner, man. We are less than a week. And again, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you very much for joining us at the Docs football release party. Again, we're going to be doing this every Thursday from 6 to 7 o'clock. Next week we will have Thursday college football games that we will get you primed for during the regular season. We got that Thursday night NFL game that we're going to be talking about and getting you ready for. Those of you that join to watch, jump in the comments. If you have a game that you want us to discuss, if you have questions that you want to ask the Doc Sports Handicapper, let it out there. We're here for you. We're here to be a resource for you and to just, again, kind of pull back the curtain on what we have going on as we prepare for a weekend of football action. Thank you very much. I will see you again next week. Carpe diem and good luck.